time.
Thank you so much. You've done an amazing discussion. I mean, an amazing introduction. And I'm really excited because I think we have a superstar panel, and I'm kind of sad that we have only 30 minutes because there's so many insights. We've been discussing a little bit before the panel. So if you're in the audience, I'm 100% sure you're going to get a lot of takeaways. At least that's what's going to be our attempt as a group. I want to go actually start with Francis. We're talking about loyalty and we're talking about e-commerce. And, BFSI traditionally has always been a trailblazer with respect to tech stacks and, what it takes to be ready for loyalty. So what does your tech stack look like?
So today there's so many things across different pieces, and you need to figure out how and best your tech stack works. But I think the starting point at some point of time is, do you have all your customer data at one place, right? And usually that starts with your data lake, or if you have a data warehouse, right, for faster and this data, making it available into reports and stuff like that. This combined with some sort of a tool which will allow you to visualize this data.
Francis, maybe you keep the mic closer to you there.
Is this better?
Yeah,
perfect. Great. So I said, maybe the starting point is, having your customer data at one place, right? So if you were to kind of divide data into multiple types, you have, for example, your visitors, your prospects, your leads, your customers, and so on and so forth. This is from a customer value chain piece. And when you look at your data, it's basically the data which most companies will have and will be there is usually your customer side of the information, right? Which is already who are transacting and what's happening. So this information usually is the best place to put it today in terms of scalability and cost effectiveness is some sort of cloud-based data lake. Right? You have the AWS, the GCP, the Azures of the world, and basically building up on that. Right? Today, some companies, including HDFC, are embarking on a path to looking at a multi-cloud based piece, primarily from a cost optimization as well as getting the best of worlds perspective. The second piece, very closely associated with the data lake, is to be able to kind of go ahead and extract this data, visualize it, and see it, or kind of do some amount of data munging very quickly, and usually some sort of very quick dashboarding tool, right? Here I think the likes of the Power BIs, the Tableaus, the Clicks of the world, etc. kind of come in. One layer above this is basically looking at how and where all your middleware lies, right? So all your transactions, where are they recorded, how are they recorded, what's your workflow management system? Again, a bunch of tools available across both top big tech as well as much smaller players, and you have a best of breed there. Usually the layer above this is your CRM, where you're basically storing both your lead management and everything else.
So can I just interrupt there for the benefit of the audience? Difference between the data lake and the CRM, if we can break that down for the audience.
Sure. So CRM is basically where you're kind of, is a tool which is being used by your frontline team. These could be at the call center. These could be at your sales force, who's basically looking at it from a leads management piece. It could also be your branches, right? Versus a data lake is basically more from an analytical purpose. It's basically your data from various production systems coming and putting together, used primarily by your business insights and analytics team to churn out insights and then give it back to business users in some form and manner.
Got it. So on insights, can I just move to the next question to Dolly actually? With respect to insights now, I think Francis laid the framework with saying that you need the data lake, and then there's got to be a visualization, there's got to be middleware. You're in a very interesting business, and I've seen your business. What you guys do is you sell a lot of mass tickets, movies, which is what all of us watch, and then there is the bottom of the funnel with respect to plays or experiences or smaller events. So just want to try to connect these dots. How do you sense the signal from, hey, these customers who watch movies are likely to buy these experiences? How do you cohort customers?
Yeah, sure. This, I think, is audible, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, first of all, segmentation happens at a platform level, not necessarily at a business level, right? So when a person X comes on the platform, right from whether he is a first-time browser to a first-time user to a repeat to an active to a superstar, and the whole journey continues, and the effort is to take him to the next tier as and when he spends time on the platform, right? Yes, you are absolutely right, because a 25-year-old legacy in movies, and last few years with the spurge of live entertainment means that live entertainment would be relatively smaller compared to movies. And then there are several signals which help us, cross-sell, if I can put it that way, and drive more repertoire and up promotions for the other categories. For
what
example,
would some of those signals be?
No, sure. So for example, we will know a customer's intent to buy, his venue, his favorite cinema locations, his geo-targeting, the language in which he watches it, the price point, the format of the cinema, whether it is IMAX or whether it's a normal 2D, the favorite actor that he watches, the kind of genres that he watches, right? And all of this information help us cross-sell. So if I'll give you a very simple example, the propensity of buying kids events is higher if he's watching animated films.
Interesting.
If he likes an artist who is doing more comic roles, I can try and target stand-up comedy. If he watches a Gujarati language movies, I can target him for Navratri events, and
Got
likewise. So there are a lot of these signals which help us cross-sell and segment the customers.
Amazing, thank you. Pallavi, I'm going to come to you next. With respect to how do you manage. So, I mean, we've kind of laid the framework. You said that you need a underlying strong infrastructure. You said you need to look at signals. Now we need to increase loyalty, and for the customer acquisition cost that you got, how do you do, manage economies of scale for CAC at scale? Because you're doing, how many tickets you're selling, give or take, in a day? Millions.
Millions.
Millions in a month.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
how do you manage that?
Okay, let me talk about. So the question is really about CAC at scale, right? How do you manage CAC at scale? Now I want to look at this question a bit differently. The way we are going to look at this question is that now for every marketer, the holy grail is new users, repeat usage, reducing CACs. That's the holy grail, right, for all of us. So there are many factors that we look at, and I believe that go into CAC reduction. Okay? The first is the timing of my campaign, my intervention, right? Now I am better off being present during demand times. Now demand time may differ for different markets during different times of the year. Okay, so like December is demand time for Karnataka, but it may not be demand time for Maharashtra. Okay? So the timing of the intervention or the campaign is very, very important when it comes to CAC reduction. The second thing was choosing the market itself, right? Now there's some markets which are very mature markets, some are emerging, some are growth markets. So sometimes CAC may not be high CAC may not be a bad thing if it's an emerging market. I will end up with higher CACs if it's an emerging market, but it is my business priority to be investing in some of these markets because I want to grow the business. I want to have a all India footprint. So it's not really a bad thing in that sense. Okay. Then I would look at my the media interventions. What kind of media am I using to for that campaign. In some markets, I know that there will be a lot of media wastage if I go television. Okay, if I'm looking at solely a market like Gujarat, I'm not doing TV. May not be a good idea because it's going to lead to a lot of wastage, spillage, so on and so forth. While Andhra Pradesh is media isolatable, so it's okay to be spending there with TV, and so the right media mix also helps me bring down my CACs. Then of course the creative itself, a very good quality creative itself helps you bring down the CACs. I'll and based on which market, which audience I'm talking to, I have to customize my creative. For example, say a market like Madhya Pradesh for us, when users thought of booking from Bhopal to Mumbai, they were not considering Redbus. They were considering Redbus, but when they were looking at booking from Bhopal to Indore, they were not looking at Redbus. So long distance Redbus, but short distance no Redbus. So I need to know what to say and when to say and how to say. So the creative itself becomes very important.
And a lot of
basis
these
the
may be
consumer
repeat
problem.
customers for you.
Pardon?
They are repeat customers because they've traveled one route but not traveling the other.
Yeah, they are repeat customers.
Got it.
So they're considering us for shorter, they're considering us for longer routes, but not considering us for shorter routes.
Got it.
So my creative, what I say, and what I say for which market, the messaging itself becomes very important in lowering CACs.
So thanks for that. That's great. I'm going to move to Priyanka. You know, we're talking about markets and we're talking about priority of markets, and we've spoken about markets like Bhopal. Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, where is India now buying from? You know, we've always heard traditionally in these marketing forums the two Indias. Is there any more a two India? Is it, you know, now finally one India? How, you know, can you give us some light on that?
So sure. So there has been a change and a shift in the cultural discourse of India. We have been hearing about, and you know, as marketeers, we've also been learning around it. So earlier it used to be India versus Bharat, but I personally believe that it is very important to win in many Indias, and in short we call it WIMI, winning in many Indias. And the contextualization of the same comes from the fact that, you know, if I were to say cohortize consumers by just the demographics, and that's the simplest way of segmenting a customer, by the way. There are various other complex ways as well. Suppose if I were to look at between men and women and millennial versus Gen Z, I'm sure you have heard of Gen Z as a term, right? People who are within 18 to 25, at least these are the ones who have the purchasing power to spend. Now, if I were to see in terms of the changing cultural discourse in the last, say, about 30 to 40 years, we see that particularly women and Gen Z, or the youth, yeah, they have shifted from the quadrant, the value quadrant of protectionism, of conformity, of tradition, into more of indulgence, hedonism. They are there in terms of sense of achievement. Now that's very, very true for women, very true for youth. What that basically means is where I came from will not define where I will go. Now all of this inspiration, ambition, aspiration, it's very important for a marketeer to tap into. And hence, now answering your question, which is where India and how India is buying as of today, we see that the top 200 million e-commerce customers are very different from the next 200 million e-commerce customers. Next to, and I'm just going by the N-1 rule here, the next 200 million potential customers for e-commerce in India, they are more vernac, they are more older, they are more T3 and rural, they are more of mobile, they are more of female, and that's a very, very important aspect to remember. Second is in terms of between metro and non-metro, because that was a specific question that came to me. We almost see about 60 to 70% of revenues for the e-commerce at large coming in from the tier 2 plus towns. An equal amount of proportion of spends come from male as of today. So hence the next source of growth becomes the women, who is very fast growing into the net commerce space, and hence the headroom to grow into e-commerce is very, very high. Similarly, between Gen Z and millennials, millennials were ruling the roost when it came to adopting the newer technologies like e-commerce, but now it is Gen Z, the youth. In fact, let me park aside one very important and very interesting statistics that I came across. 91% of the youth in a household across India is now influencing the decision making, whether it is about fashion, lifestyle, what to buy for home, or technology for that matter. In fact, we also fondly call them the CTOs. They're the Chief Technology Officer at home. So really, these are the influencers who are also influencing the decision making of the buyer in terms of where to buy from.
Wonderful. I think some great insights as we walked across. Sreekanth, I want to come to you before I come, close this out, the first set of questions. Very interesting point about the next 200 million going to be different. You also have a different approach. One look at your e-commerce store and you can see that it's designed very differently. It almost looks like an Instagram, story feed. You also have, you are uniquely omni-channel. What can you tell us, I guess, more with respect to the first 200 million? With respect to how, does it make a difference to loyalty if you're omni-channel? And, how have you designed your store to serve for that?
It does. It does. Like at the end of the day, when I think we talk about the first 200 or the second 200 million, for us traditionally we've been a brick and mortar organization. So people walk into our stores, and obviously they're also digitally savvy, so they shop online. Maybe they're shopping on Flipkart or the other marketplaces out there, and that's when the need came in that we need to have an online presence. The journey began through that, right? And then what we realized was our loyalty program, which is First Citizen, is by far one of the oldest and one of the most reputed loyalty programs within the retail sector. We see over 70-75% of our total revenues coming in from the loyalty program, which is our First Citizen. So it became very important for us, like when we talk about customer acquisition cost. For us, the way we look at it is the single biggest metric, if I can look at, and all of us know multiple metrics we catch hold of every day, but the one metric which I would say is that, can I ensure that my overall revenues are coming in from First Citizen? When I say that, what I mean is 70-75% of the revenues are coming in from First Citizens, but on the online front, can I replicate that? Because these are the customers who know our brand, who have had a purchase history. I'm talking about customers who may be spending 60,000, 70,000 bucks a year. So if I can bring them onto the online side, and what are the various other things which I can give them as a value addition, and it could really impact in terms of creating an appetite for us to then maybe find the next set of customers, whether that's 200 million or whether that's 10 million, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is that since we have that war chest of that customer data, of the customers interacting with us, shopping with us, we can find those lookalike audiences in the wider ecosystem. So the appetite of acquiring new customers, which will eventually bring in the relevant lifetime value sort of spends at our end, becomes a lot more viable. And towards the end, all of us would agree that we are at a time where driving something which is sustainable and scalable and profitable, if not now, eventually getting onto that route is the key. So that's where loyalty becomes extremely critical for us, and that's the journey which we have embarked on from day one.
What I find heartening about this conversation, I think everybody across the spectrum, and this is a spotlight shifting, right? Because everybody's talking about, you spoke about the war chest of your loyal customers, and the spotlight is firmly on that. I want to come to Surbhi from your perspective. Two questions, and maybe you can help us understand how you want to take that. One is similar to Francis's question. You're new to the market, so what is a new player's tech stack looking like today to deal with this loyalty world? If you could go into some specifics with respect to what you're using, and the kind of the layer to that question is that you're in a category. My assumption being that once I paint, then I don't want to paint again. So what role does loyalty, I mean, not that I never want to paint again, but my life cycle may be a little longer. So what role does loyalty play then? How do you look at that?
So I think before I start, Harshil, I'll just take a minute to talk about our Grasim paints. I'm not sure if everybody is aware. We are a new division with Aditya Birla Group, and we have now come up with our brand. We are now Birla Opus. So we will be launching in the market very soon with our paints.
Sorry, it's called Birla?
Birla Opus.
Opus.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we are called Birla Opus. And I think now coming to the question which you asked about the technology stack, one of the things which we are doing in Birla Opus in the last 2 years, we have been a very greenfield setup, right from our plants to our sales network, to our marketing, to our technology stack. We have set everything up from scratch, and this is where I think largely we are in a bit of an advantageous position, at least with the technology stack, because we know what is working well, what is not working well in the market already. So there we know from, if I talk from a technology, I think a lot of panelists here, they have talked about consumer insights, trying to understand who my consumer is at what point of time. So, we can then create more relevant content, marketing content, campaigns, etc. for that kind of a cohort. I would go one step below a cohort to personalization. So to one-on-one kind of a content if I can create. So we know this is where there is a shift which is happening. So already you talked about, you asked Francis also on the CRM. So an enterprise-wide CRM is something which is a very basic I'm starting with. So people in the industry, the various organizations, they have set up multiple systems in the past and then they try to bring it together. We are already doing a connected journey with our ecosystem, yeah. So already that enterprise level CRM, our own websites, they are going to be so well connected. Then again with the stores that we have versus what we have on online, anybody would have a very connected experience if they walk into my experience store, if they walk into the dealer shop, if they come on to my online, tomorrow if I'm selling e-commerce. So I have a unique customer ID across all my
What's the stack you're using for that?
So we are leveraging Salesforce.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but now what we are, so that is something which we have already established because this is, for us, it's now become a foundational piece, yeah. But over and above, since we are going to launch new, so for us, the biggest thing is the customer reach and acquisition to start off with, yeah, because that is where we start having some data about my customers. So we are also now implementing a CDP solution, a customer data platform, which is over and above. So one of the things which we are looking at is resolving the entire identity and identity resolution of our consumers. So anybody who's anonymous to me today, how do I track that anonymous user and how do I reach out to that anonymous user? So that is what we are solving straight away, because that is going to be the need of the hour when we launch, yeah, early next year. So that is from, you know, overall, of course, some things around performance marketing, something around, you know, the kind of insights, the data lake strategy which Francis mentioned. These are all well-established, you know, elements which are already part of my stack. So going back, I think, as I said, we are in a bit of an advantageous position because we know these are going to be the things which work well. We have gone ahead with cloud first principle. We have gone ahead with digital first principle. So we are not using you know, on-prem databases anywhere. Everything is on cloud. We are a bit cloud agnostic and looking at all hyperscalers to help us create the value which we have. And one of the things which we are very cleanly exploring are the Web3 technology stack. Yeah?
Got it.
So that is something where even if we see competition is not there yet, we are exploring and building solutions already.
Sure. So we've got about 6.5 minutes to go, and I'm going to give it to 5 speakers now, because you've given us a comprehensive segue to go to the next part, which is you've touched upon a point of personalization, personalized communication, linking to your loyalty journey. I think that's a good framework for us to end with. Perhaps if each one of you takes 1.5 minutes on how you are doing it in your respective organizations, how your organization is doing personalization with AI, with respect to increasing the loyalty with customers, and anything with respect to personalization in AI that you'd like to shed light on. Maybe we can start this way, or maybe Francis, you can start. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think. So one of the things very quickly is in terms of personalization. If you already know a customer and he's a known customer, and I think almost all those technologies are more or less in place. Whether you kind of look at any of the channels of communication, whether it's WhatsApp, email, SMS, rich content service, and so on and so forth. How do you identify a customer if he is not logged in? Right? So tools, such as some sort of an identity resolution, whether it's CDP or even you have other ways of doing it, can quickly help identify this customer if he's on your website. You can have a push notification saying that thank you for visiting again. This is what you saw and this is what we can do for you. Right? So this is just personalization even before somebody is kind of logged into and has revealed that, okay, this is the person that I am. Right? How do you use it? Whether you use it, how much to use it? Does it kind of will it kind of spook the customer saying that, hey, how do they have information that I'm there, etc.? I think that's a business call. But principally from a technology, I think that kind of exists today. And you can do that level of personalization. The second level of personalization, I think it's pure core to the product, right? For insurance, I think the key element is that, is the product making money for me? I mean, these are long gestation products, 20, 30 years, right? So is a product making money for me at a given point in time? So at a given point in time, rather than, just speak about, hey, this is our fund value of this particular fund, looking at his particular specific product and saying that, okay, for the premium that you're paying for everything, so here's your midterm illustration. Usually insurance is sold on illustration. This is how your cash flow will look like right now, and this is what you get. Can I, bring
Can you do it for every
a
customer
customized or personalized midterm illustration for him on the fly, put together very quickly, and not only put together with here and now as to what's happened, but put together with some sort of projection of what will happen in the next 4 to 8 years.
Got it.
We call it midterm illustration, and we're doing it at scale today across different touch points.
Interesting. Okay, Dolly, you want to go next with this? Taking off your example of the animation to the kids, and if you want to add anything.
Yeah, so, personalization, I think, started right from the days of Starbucks when they started writing your name on the cups, right? And the way you feel special just by addressing you. That's like the first layer of personalization. And then AI is taking it to a generative level. But when it comes to BookMyShow, I feel we are in the journey. We are not there. But we have been doing personalization at all fronts, right from your discovery to your engagement, to your post-transaction modes, to your customer service. For example, if each of you in this room open your BookMyShow app, your top navigation bar will not have the same categories because we understand your browsing pattern, your interests, your affinity. So a person who's regularly been interested in movies will probably see movie as the first category, but the person who's been interested in music will probably see music, right? So right from your discovery page to the page of engagement and post-transaction, when you complete your transaction on movie, if I have to cross-sell you watch a stream at home, the stream which person A will see versus B will see will again be personalized to the interest and the past transaction and history of that person, right? If you have a complaint, if you call a customer care, even before you reach that person, your history will be flashed, your data will be flashed, your probable questions will be flashed, everything will be ready because we want to reduce the dissonance and anxiety of a customer when he's calling you for a complaint. So at each stage, based on the history, we have already been doing a lot of work on personalization. I think it's a journey over next 5-6 years. It's going to evolve a lot. So yeah, that's where we are largely on it.
Awesome. Thank you. Priyanka, over to you.
I'll go straight into this. In addition to what the previous speakers have mentioned, I will talk about how we do it. So really fusing the external segmentation data with the on-platform internal segmentation data or insights helps us to understand a better view of the consumer. So here, exactly what I'm talking about is connecting the dots. So there are about 750 active internet users in the country as of today, give or take a few million here and there. And there are about 250 e-commerce consumers in the country. Now, which is almost about 30% penetration in terms of the consumer. Now, when that kind of a gap exists, this is where China used to be about 10 years back. Now, when that kind of a gap exists, in order to onboard newer consumers and give them a more personalized experience, it is very essential for the players to go for innovation. Now, in order to do innovation, there is a better understanding of the consumer that you need to do. Hence, 3 things which are very favorite of mine. One is consumer segmentation, which I spoke of. Second is really the social media analytics that we extensively depend on. And my personal favorite is the passive intelligence, which is basically understanding what the consumer is doing in the natural ecosystem. So instead of going with the stated responses, how do you really understand the passive behavior of the consumer so that you can fuse those insights for a better understanding and a holistic understanding of the personality for a better personalization.
Great.
Yeah, I think we have now exactly 20 seconds.
No, we can take a bit more time, yeah.
All right, I'll give it a shot. We have about 45 million customers. So personalization then becomes extremely important because it can't be one size fits all. And personalization for us really begins by first identifying at what stage of the consumer journey a consumer is in. Okay? Let me just give you one example, and I'm going to keep the example also very short. Let's look at the newly acquired segment, okay, we've acquired. So when we look at this user, we'll try and look at all the dimensions about this user. We'll look at, which is the bus operator this user booked on, whether this user booked a AC bus or a non-AC bus, which route did he book it on, was it a RTC bus or was it a private bus? So we look at a bunch of variables. And basis all these variables, we will personalize messaging. We will personalize, time of the day when the communication needs to be sent, the frequency of communication, all these dimensions.
So a question to both you and Dolly. I know we're running out of time, and so we have your last word to come in. But you guys both gave examples of multiple variables. Now, the award-winning work which Daniel Kahneman has done on thinking fast and slow is talking about the human brain being able to process 3 variables at once.
Yeah.
So with these multiple variables, what is the role of the human? What is the role of technology? How do you make that decision on what to push out?
See, technology to me is always, it should support intuitive insight, okay? Technology should never override that, okay? So once I know, and it helps me, of course, understand my consumer deeply, but that intuitive understanding should be number one. Technology should always support it, yes. That's my firm belief.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. Dolly, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just feel that over years we've also started finding ways of modularizing personalization sometimes, where you give the perception of it being personalized to the end consumer, but at the back end there is a data science working on a lot of these things, which means that you can play with multiple parameters at any point in time, right? If a person A drops off from a particular page or from an order booking flow, you can always send him a message which is personalized. But at the back end, you can have those hundreds of personalized messages for those 30,000 events, which are the possibilities of drop-offs, right?
Got it.
So I feel that can also bridge this gap of human intelligence versus data science usage.
Okay, and
just 1 second on the same thing, right? The thing is, it just has to be a human-first approach. Ultimately, you're talking to a human being. Right? So variables can do as much, but you're ultimately talking to a human being. So that lens has to be number one. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, and final word from you.
Yeah, no, it's sometimes weird to be last because pretty much everybody has talked about everything I wanted to say, but I'll just keep it short. I think we try to do something very similar to what everybody talked about. So the 3 ethos for running an e-commerce is going to be search, merge, and reco, which is recommendation, right? So pretty much it's all driven on personalization. But I think the more interesting or important point or a realization for us is that we are a pure B2C in a sense that we've got our stores where the customers are coming in. We have something called a personal shopper program, which has been very successful. So think about this, a 5,000 crore company, 8 to 10% of the revenue is coming in from personal shoppers. Personal shoppers are 200 to 300 odd people across 50 odd cities, 100 plus stores. So imagine the productivity of these personal shoppers. And who are these guys? It's not a paid service. You can just walk into our stores. Those guys will give you a bespoke experience, one at a time. They will take you around the entire store. They will help you, advise you as a stylist what could go well. And that's the real sense of personalization, because there is such a big human touch. And I think it goes down to what, Pallavi, you were talking about. So everything else from a technology, from enabling that associate on the floor to help him or her better understand what the customer's browsing history was, what are those interests which the customer has got, and accordingly recommend. So the tech is there to enable, but then that absolute service which comes from the human out there on the floor really helps us to get those sort of numbers and bring that experience forward. Because I think one important point, back in the day, department store used to be this one modern trade retail. There was not much of EBOs, not much of e-commerce. But then now we've seen in the West, department stores are shutting down. So there's a lot of this topic, what's going to happen to department store? You walk into a mall today, all the brands which we carry, there's going to be EBOs of those brands in that mall. Then why should a customer come to the department store? And this is where the differentiation is the experience, is that personal shopper, is that hyper personalization you do for that individual is what really matters. So
amazing. This is the, ladies and gentlemen, the vibrant, intelligent and ruthless energy of corporate India. Please give them a big round of applause for a fantastic panel.